Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Off and running, welcome in. After further review here on a Friday, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso in for Moscona. We got Jordan Kitchens hanging out. We got Paul O'Neill hanging out, and we're very happy to have all of you hanging out with us here as well as we get you set to roll into the weekend here as we wind down in January. January always feels like it takes like 4 months, and this has been no different. It's like it's the worst month of the year, if we're being honest. But hey, it's almost Jordan. You're nodding over there. You feeling January, my guy?
No, I agree with you that January is always so long.
It's horrible.
And this is one of the first years where I looked up, where I blinked, and January's over.
That's incredible. So I cannot relate to that. It feels like it's been January for about 5 years. So we're winding you down. Next time you're back here, it'll be February with all of us. So fired up, man. We got a great show planned out here today. I'm going to talk some LSU baseball. I got 3 different baseball segments planned out. I mean, you better believe we're 14 days out. I have a microphone. I am funneling you LSU baseball content, and I really cannot wait to do so. Mock drafts, obviously, coming out now. The Senior Bowl practices have winded down. The game is Saturday, so we'll run through some of that. Really want to take a look at the LSU receiver room as well. A piece from ESPN kind of jump-started that in my head. So we have a ton to get to. We're going to get through all of it here over the next 3 hours. Let's start as we do here every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
But we'll start kind of with the news of the day surrounding LSU and Lane Kiffin's staff, and that involves, once again, Charlie Weis Jr. You'll remember, may have been last week, the report came out that the Philadelphia Eagles and Charlie Weis had met to discuss the vacant offensive coordinator spot on Nick Sirianni's staff, and Charlie Weis, opted to stay in Baton Rouge, stay with Lane Kiffin. But you might recall, at the beginning of January, the first NFL team that showed interest in Charlie Weis Jr., and that was the New York Giants. And this was all the way back in Week 18. Okay, obviously, look, they had long since fired Brian Daboll. It looked, at that point, you knew, okay, John Harbaugh is going to be the apple of their eye. And they got that done about a week later or so, after the first week of the playoffs. So I guess 2 weeks later, you would call that there. And it goes to fill in an offensive coordinator. And during Week 18, Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants for ESPN, he's their NFL Nation reporter for the New York Giants, had already floated out the idea of Charlie Weis Jr. joining the New York Giants staff. This is Week 18 of the NFL season, so first week in January. And it kind of goes quiet after that. All the focus shifts to John Harbaugh. They've hired him, or have they? It's agreed in principle, but they're working through a few things to the deal, and then finally they get that across the finish line. And by that point, really, Weis and the Eagles is what was in the forefront of everybody's mind. Well, let's go back to last night, shall we? Thursday evening, Connor Hughes works for SNY up there, covers the Giants and the Jets, things of that nature. Thursday night, he has a report that Charlie Weis Jr.'s name has continued to circulate around the Giants, and that Jackson Dart is pushing hard for John Harbaugh and his staff to bring aboard Charlie Weis as the offensive coordinator. And look, that makes a lot of sense as to why. Dart spent multiple years in Oxford with Charlie Weis, with Lane Kiffin, in that offense, with Weis calling the plays. He was the SEC's leading passer. They helped mold him into a first-round pick. He's very, very comfortable. It would make sense that he would stump for his guy. Remember, there was the odds and some of the stories that maybe the Giants should take a look at Lane Kiffin for their head coaching job. And they fired Brian Daboll so early, you could have your pick of the litter. You could have anybody that you wanted. And then Lane had the funny thing with Dart's family in a group chat like, it's too cold up there. And that really, nothing ever really became of that in something serious. But Dart says, we miss on Lane. Let's try again with Charlie Weis Jr. And then comes the final point of this story earlier today, this time again from Jordan Renan, that Jackson Dart showed a lot of support, pushed for his guy, but the expectations now are that Charlie Weis Jr. plans to remain in Baton Rouge and coach LSU and be the offensive coordinator for the Tigers on Lane Kiffin's inaugural staff. Look, that's a good thing. And it's a 3-year, $7.5 million deal. Remember, LSU added the $500K extra when maybe Weis was considering going back to Ole Miss, staying with Ole Miss. He was back there at the playoff run to have him reconsider and come and follow Lane Kiffin. So he's got a great contract. But it is worth noting, as we have with any time his name has come up with something else, if it were for an NFL job or a college head coaching job, he'd be let out of his LSU contract free and clear, no buyout, any of that nature. So if he wanted to take this position, he could have, but he'll remain. And I think it's huge for LSU. Maybe not for the reason that many think. For me, it's all about the staff continuity. I'm after the highest efficiency that the LSU offense can perform with in 2026. If Charlie Weis were to leave, if he, hypothetically, let's say he took this Giants job, the LSU offense would still function very well. Lane Kiffin goes somewhere, offense follows. He's the mastermind behind all of it, right? We understand that. I'm not trying to discount Charlie Weis's involvement, his input, his role in this at all. He's a key cog in it. It's why Lane Kiffin wanted him here in Baton Rouge to begin with, when he could have stayed at Ole Miss. Here's a little extra dough. Maybe, come on, we need you here still. He wants him here. So I'm not going to minimize that at all. I'm just saying what you're seeing right now is there's going to come a time, probably in the near future, that Charlie Weis isn't at LSU. And it's probably going to be for a higher level job, whether that's in the NFL or a head coaching job in college. Like, that is a reality that this offseason has shown us that we need to prepare ourselves for if we have not already. And when that time comes, it'll be okay. Lane Kiffin will get his next guy, or maybe he'll start calling plays again or whatnot. You'll approach that bridge when you get to it. The point there is your offense is going to be awesome as long as Lane Kiffin is here. But I'll go back to what I said kind of right at the beginning of why I think it's big, is for the continuity and the efficiency that this allows LSU's offense to operate in. I think it's the highest efficiency level. Again, Lane wanted him here. There's a reason for that. You got the entire offensive staff from Ole Miss minus the offensive line coach. You went and got Eric Walford from Kentucky. But that's a lot of guys who are all on the same page. And when you're bringing in as many transfers as LSU is on the offensive side of the ball, 3 quarterbacks, 9 wide receivers, what was it? 4 or 5 running backs. No, 3 running backs, 5 total with Barry and Durham returning. And then the plethora of offensive linemen you brought in as well. You have all those guys learning a new system for the first time. I want everybody on that offensive staff that you brought here with you to be here to help. They're all on the same page. They can get that message through. And I think that ultimately is what helps you operate at your highest efficiency if you're the LSU offense in 2026. So this is great. Will it last forever? No. Will it be okay when it inevitably ends? Yes. But going into the first year, I would prefer to keep everyone together, and it looks like LSU is going to be able to do that. I should note, Jordan Renan did note in his report that things can obviously change with this, but it certainly seems like Charlie Weis will remain in Baton Rouge, and that's a very, very good thing for the LSU Tigers and Lane Kiffin and the offense. Hopefully that's the last time we have to talk about it. If not, well, we'll be right here giving you the latest. We're going to grab a break. We're going to come back on the other side, continue with some LSU football, and I want to talk a little bit about the top 100 transfer list that was released today by ESPN because it got me thinking about one group in particular with LSU. We'll dive into that next here on AFR.
AFR.
Let's Rev, R-E-V, letsrev.com, letsrev.com. You ever just get super frustrated at super slow internet? Oh, we've all been there, man. The little spinning wheel, slamming your keyboard or your mouse, pounding the desk because it's so frustrating. Your internet's so slow. Storm comes, knocks the power out, knocks the internet out, knocks the cable out. You're so frustrated. Maybe that's just me because I get kind of angry about things. But it's annoying. Nobody wants that to happen. Rev can help. They're local and 5 gigs, lightning fast speeds, and backed by an all-fiber network. Fiber. It's buried under the ground. I mean, you don't have to worry about a storm coming knocking the power lines down. Let's Rev. Listen, more than 70,000 Louisiana homeowners and business owners trust Rev. You should as well. REV. 90 years of local experience. Let'sRev.com. Let'sRev.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. When we talk about Relief Windows every day, I always say windows, doors, siding. And now shutters as well. They do your indoor shutters. Same thing as the windows. Custom made, measured to fit your windows, custom fit for your windows, lifetime warranty on your windows, your shutters. But Brandon, you often hear say their number one product is customer satisfaction. And that's not just a catchy line. That's not a cliche phrase. Have an experience with Relief Windows and you'll understand. They go to the ends of the earth to make sure their customers are thrilled with the work they do. As a matter of fact, Relief Windows never takes $1 from you. You will not, no deposit, no down payment. They take all the risk. They will not take $1 until you're thrilled with the work they do. Who else does that? Only Relief Windows. Check them out online at ReliefWindows.com.
All right, back here after further review on a Friday, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Glad to have you along for the ride. Musso in for Moscona. Scone, just a quick trip out of the office here today. He will be back on Monday. Of course, then he's going to be going again on Tuesday, traveling to Super Bowl. But I've got... Sorry, the mic doesn't want to stay still. That's...
Would you say it needs some good wood?
It needs something, yeah. It needs to just stay put. All right. I'm just going to hold it. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I don't even know what I was doing now. That completely threw me off.
No, we were talking about the top 100 transfer portal targets.
Thank you, Jordan. Yes. All right. ESPN today, they released their top 100 transfers in college football. And as you might expect, LSU had plenty of guys on the list. When you bring in 41 transfers and you're paying them what you're paying them, and you got a guy like Lane Kiffin who really hones in on scouting, player development, Billy Glasscock, all those guys, what they can do, you figure you're going to have a lot. In fact, LSU had eight of the top 100, 3 in the top 10. You could probably guess those 3. It's the usual suspects. You look at Sam Levitt, he was 3rd on this list. Jordan Seaton right behind him at 4. And Princewill Umanmielen was actually number 6 on this list. Those were your 3 in the top 10. And again, you expect that. I think maybe the other guy you expected to be pretty high would have been Ty Benefield, and he was 34th. You might go 34th. Well, he was also the number 2 safety, according to ESPN as well. So right in lockstep with where, On 3, 247 Sports, all those services had him as well. But you go further down the list, and that's where this starts to get intriguing. I should note Jordan Ross, the edge defender from Tennessee, was also on the list at number 71. And the remaining guys were wide receivers for LSU. Jace Brown checked in at number 70. Of course, Jace Brown, the transfer from Kansas State, playmaker, 3 years there, suffered an injury late in the season here. Otherwise, he would have gone over 1,000 yards. He'll be ready for spring and all of those things. We had a gentleman on the show. Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he covered Kansas State, and he came to talk some Jace Brown. And he said, first words out of his mouth were explosive playmaker and a guy who Kansas State went to when they needed a big play. So you're bringing him in, again, 70th overall transfer according to ESPN. Winnie Watkins from Ole Miss checked in at 78. That one surprised me a tad, just because his playing time at Ole Miss wasn't as robust here in his freshman year. I mean, he had some really nice moments. He had almost 400 yards receiving off of less than 30 receptions. So, I mean, you see the big play ability there. That maybe that's what you're looking for. But I don't know, when you just looked at some of the experience that was in this transfer portal class at the wide receiver position, that surprised me a little bit to see him there. But, hey, that's great for LSU. And then the other name that I assume many of you would expect to see here is Trey Wilson from the University of Florida. He was 82nd on this list. I mean, that guy, look, man, when he's been healthy, he has been dynamic. Catching passes, and especially the run after the catch. And that's something you really saw with this wide receiver class in total, is the yards per catch average was massive for many of these guys, whether it's Jackson Harris, Trey Brown, all of Tyree Holloway, all big yard after catch, big average catch reception guy there. It's kind of just a hallmark. But it got me thinking, looking at this and saying, it kind of became a running joke with LSU, just adding transfer wide receiver after transfer wide receiver after transfer wide receiver. But it was necessary. But now you sit back and you look and you go, you have 13 scholarship wide receivers on this team for 2026. How do you structure this room? And I'm not sitting here and trying to, tell you this guy's going to start, this is your rotation on January 30th. We have to get through spring ball. The basis of this is to lay out why I believe, outside of the obvious, how does Sam Leavitt look? Come fall camps, he's going to miss spring. So you're really looking at, okay, Houston Longstreet and Landon Clark getting the bulk of those reps. What does the quarterback position look like? Obviously, you're going to be, heavy viewing the offensive line. But outside of that, wide receiver is the most intriguing position, I think, for LSU this spring, just because you have so many guys, and not only so many guys who are capable of contributing. And how do you really, find the spot for everybody? And there's two answers to that. Number one is, in Lane Kiffin's offense, it's fairly easy for him to do that because he just spreads the football out. How's this for a stat? Lane Kiffin was in Oxford at Ole Miss for 6 seasons. 4 times. So 4 out of his 6 years. He had at least 3 wide receivers, not a tight end, not a running back, 3 wide receivers with 40 or more receptions on the year. A season ago in 2025, there was 4 of them. You look at Ole Miss last year, and you had 6 pass catchers. This is where you can factor in a tight end in Daquan Wright. You had 6 pass catchers with 370 or more yards. Really rounded up to 400 if you want to. Winnie Watkins was the guy at 373. They spread the ball around. You also expect for Harlem Berry to probably get a few more touches out of the backfield in the passing game this year. That's a big part of his game that he didn't have. That might take a few away. But what you're really looking for is maybe 6 guys, 5 wide receivers total, to step up and immediately contribute. And I think on paper, if you're looking at who that could be, not saying it's going to be these guys, but Jace Brown makes a lot of sense. It's a 3-year starter in Power 4 football. And as we just stated, a guy who, a Kansas State beat writer himself said that's the guy they went to when they needed to play. And if not for the injury, he was a 1,000-yard guy easy in 2025. He's a proven playmaker, right? At the power forward level. Trey Wilson, that's another guy there, man. Proven playmaker. The problem with him is, can he stay healthy? If he does, well, you have a crazy weapon out on the outside who absolutely is a guy you look at and go, yeah, 40 receptions, probably easily for him. And you've still got 3 spots. And look at everybody else you could possibly have. We mentioned Jackson Harris. He put up monster numbers at Hawaii. But I tell you what's going to be really interesting is a guy like Winnie Watkins, because he already knows the system. You would feel like he has a little bit of a leg up. Obviously, as we said, the big playability is there. Just looking at his numbers this season, go less than 30 catches and almost 400 yards. Like, hello. Corey Barber. That's someone that's going to be fascinating. Because, man, that's a 5-star who's coming in, who is committed to Lane Kiffin. That's a player they obviously like a whole lot. But when you look at the freshmen that you're going to have in this group, you look at Barber, you could Jabari Mack out of Destrehan, Braden Allen from LCA. And then I'd throw Philip Wright in there too. Philip Wright gets a redshirt year. Philip Wright had 1 reception this year at LSU. Those are all immensely talented guys to go along with the other, I don't know, call it 6 transfers we didn't mention so far in this. You have so many options just at the wide receiver position. And then, oh, by the way, Trey Green. It's going to be fascinating to watch them work with this room, work with the pass catchers throughout spring, summer, fall, and then when you get in the regular season, because the amount of weapons that you have is crazy. The other reason, I said there was 2 reasons, and one of them was Lane Kiffin's offense. The other reason this is going to be so intriguing to watch this group come spring practice is the amount of guys that have multiple years of eligibility. You realize Jace Brown's the only wide receiver on LSU's team right now that doesn't have multiple years of eligibility? The other 8 transfers do, and obviously your freshman and a guy like Philip Wright does. Okay, why is that interesting, Musso? Most of those guys are probably going to leave if they don't get playing time. That's today's age of college football. You know what? You're not wrong. But I'll tell you why I think it's interesting is because the one thing they set out to do that looks clear with bringing in that many multi-year guys is they're trying to create competition. And when you have this crowded of a room, that's the best remedy for it is competition through spring, through summer, through fall, where you can really whittle this down, see which guys are going to be there, and know who you have going in. Because I look at this and I go, man, you'd be hard-pressed to find a player, no matter how experienced they are or not, in this list of receivers that isn't capable of contributing in Lane Kiffin's offense year one. And you know what? That's what the competition will figure out. And if you're not, well, you have multiple years of eligibility. You see what's going to happen with these other guys. And it's not to say some of them are juniors, so they have 2 years left. They might enter the draft and whatnot. You're going to have turnover again at the position. But you've built so much depth and such a great foundation that's going to be built on competition that it's really exciting to already, again, here, not even with the calendar turned to February yet, be talking about what you might see from this group in spring practice. It is, without question, one of the most intriguing positions to keep an eye on as this year and offseason progresses, right up until when LSU will open the season against the Clemson Tigers. I'm fascinated to watch it. I hope all of you are too, and we'll have you covered wall-to-wall with it, obviously here on AFR. Exciting times dealing with the LSU offense and skill guys in Lane Kiffin. You knew what you were signing up for. Portal, offense, fireworks, tweets. You've gotten it all so far here in a little over 2 months of Lane having the job. All right, we're going to grab a break. Come back on the other side. We'll go around the SEC. Cruising through here, man, on hour number one. we'll go around the SEC. Still got plenty of LSU baseball content to talk here. That pretty much exhausts our LSU football content here for today. So plenty of baseball coming. Stick around for that, and we'll be back shortly on AFR.
After further review.
We're brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. Yes, hormone replacement therapy. Yes, NAD+. Yes, BPC 157. Yes, ED treatment. The bottom line is, gentlemen, I don't care how old you are. It's about how old you feel, and do you want to feel like you did when you were younger? Do you want to live a more vital life? Do you want to live a more energetic life, where you wake up in the morning, your feet hit the floor, and you're rip-roaring ready to go, where you're motivated to get in the gym, where you have a great libido, where you have great mindset, energy, mental clarity, memory, all that sort of stuff? It's possible. It's affordable. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness can help you do it. Hormone replacement therapy could be a giant part of that for you. NAD Plus can literally help your cellular optimization to make you younger at a cellular level. BPC 157, tremendous in helping in recovery. Learn more. yourgoodwood.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Again, you can log on to firstsouthland.com. We're nearing the end of the year. Maybe you're thinking about that tax write-off. You're buying timber property, recreational timber property could be a great opportunity for a tax strategy. Talk to your CPA to see if that's something that might make sense. Or maybe, right now you're in hunting season and you're tired of sharing that lease. This is a good time to call our friends over at First South Farm Credit to start that process toward owning your own land. It's First South Farm Credit. Go to firstsouthland.com. That's firstsouthland.com. Land's a finite resource, y'all. It ain't never going down in value and they ain't making more of it. So you want to get your own, First South Farm Credit can help. firstsouthland.com. That's firstsouthland.com.
All right, back here after further review on a Friday, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso in for Moscona. We're going to go around the SEC here in a quick second. And coming up, I did Senior Bowl practices obviously wrapped yesterday. I mean, we had a lot of great content on the show this week. Senior Bowl, obviously, with off the bench, heading down there and being there for 4 days. Obviously, we checked in with Sean Fazan, with Ross Jackson, of course, again, then with Matt Flynn from OTB, just giving us some reports from the Senior Bowl all throughout the week, practices, guys standing out. It was a really, really good week for the LSU guys. And before we go around this, I want to point out Chris Hilton, man, because Chris Hilton is just out there playing in every All-Star game that he can. And I love the friggin' hustle for that. That's a guy who it never materialized for him at LSU, whether it be injuries, playing time, just all of that kind of wrapped into one. Guys ahead of him on the depth chart. And he's just a really, really immensely talented wide receiver. So he goes to the East-West Shrine Bowl, does that whole deal, hops on a plane as soon as it's over, and arrives at the Senior Bowl on Wednesday. Misses the first day of practice, and he found himself on the scoreboard Thursday, along with Barry and Brown when it came to fastest players, the guys who reached the top speed of that day. That's just so admirable to see a guy who, man, again, didn't go the way he wanted at LSU. We all know that. But to still seize his opportunity the way that he has, and you think, you're going to tell me that doesn't look good to a front office? I think that looks really good to a front office. Man, this guy just played in one All-Star game, and now he doesn't even go home. He just immediately comes to the next one and performs like that. Is right there among some of the top performers. So I thought that was really awesome. I don't know if we talked about really that enough over the last 2 days. The performance that Chris Hilton put forth, and I mean, understandably so. I mean, look, Garrett Nussmeier had a really, really good week. I mean, I'm actually excited to see what he can do in the game, full speed on Saturday. And Look, I don't know about y'all. I ain't leaving the house tomorrow. It's going to be so damn. I think the high's 37. I ain't leaving the house. I want to be locked up with the heater on, some hot chocolate, maybe some leftovers, and I might just put the Senior Bowl on and grind that. Starting at 1:30. As I really do want to see what Nussmeier will do, and obviously Barry and Brown and Aaron Anderson. Nuss and Brown had a really, really good week, out there in Mobile, and with everybody who grabbed all the headlines, like our guy from John Carroll, Tyron Montgomery, the wide receiver, had never played football before in his life. Then one day his brother taught him a slant route in the backyard. Now he's going to go to the NFL, which, by the way, when you hear the term God-given ability, that's that. Like that, you play basketball your whole life. You're just sitting on the couch one day and your brother's like, hey, you want to go throw the football? And you go out there, he teaches you a slant route, and now you're on the precipice of getting drafted. That is insane. And credit to that young man. His story is incredible, and he's doing the most with that God-given ability. I actually would love for the Saints to draft him. And doesn't he just sound like a New Orleans Saint? Jordan, back me up. He went to John Carroll. He didn't play football until the backyard days.
It's crazy.
And small school, Senior Bowl, and we don't know his relative athletic score yet, but I'm sure it'll be great.
He'll jump off the screen.
Like, the Saints they got to be head over heels in love with that guy.
Nah, that's definitely a Mickey Loomis. Like, he's looking at the menu, he's salivating. He might need a bib at the moment.
You make the perfect Mickey Loomis draft pick in a lab. It feels like it's Ty Montgomery from John Carroll.
Well, he might need to be a guard or like an edge.
True.
That's true.
It
might be a guard on the edge.
That's true. Skill. Well, I mean, Marcus Colston came from Hofstra.
Right.
I mean,
you're right, man.
I could be,
I hate to say it. Rashid Shaheed, undrafted. I'm losing the Seahawks right now.
Rashid Shaheed, undrafted. Lance Moore. I mean, we've seen it at receiver too.
We've seen it happen. We've seen it
at receiver too. But with everyone else grabbing the headlines, we need to give Chris Hilton some love. So that's really kind of what I wanted to do and tie in the rest of the Senior Bowl. So 1:30 kickoff for the Senior Bowl tomorrow from Mobile. You'll see 4 LSU guys on the offensive side. Bummer that Halsey and Pyburn ultimately couldn't make it. But, look, we'll obviously keep an eye on those guys through the combine process and all of that. But exciting times. Get yourself a bowl of soup, some gumbo, crawfish etouffee, a blanket. Watch the Senior Bowl tomorrow. It's going to be 37 degrees, and that's just stupid. All right. Let's go ahead and go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Texas Longhorns.
Steve Sarkisian is not done in the transfer portal. Texas here on Friday signed Wake Forest transfer wide receiver Sterling Burkhalter. News first reported by Pete Nako, of On3. Final year of eligibility for Burkhalter in Austin. Previous stops, North Carolina A&T, Cincinnati, and Wake Forest. 76 career receptions, 1,083 career yards. He did set career highs at Wake Forest this year in catches and receiving yards. Second transfer portal addition at receiver for Texas, joining Cam Coleman from Auburn.
The Oklahoma Sooners.
Oklahoma linebacker Owen Heineke saw the NCAA deny his waiver for an extra year of eligibility. Sooners GM Jim Nagy announcing the news on Twitter. Also, Jim Nagy said the Sooners plan to appeal. Heineke was listed as a redshirt junior in 2025, but has completed his 5th collegiate season. Here's the catch. 4 of those years were with the Sooners on the football team. The other was in the Ohio State lacrosse team his freshman season. He was a breakout performer for OU in 2025, 74 tackles, 3 sacks. While he was awaiting the NCAA's decision, he did opt in to the 2026 Senior Bowl. So we'll see kind of how that goes. Quick catch up if you're looking for something else to watch on Saturday here in BR when it's just, frigid. You can do that with some SEC basketball. Great slate. Texas A&M will be at Georgia. Texas will be at Oklahoma. It's Mississippi State and Missouri to kick off the 2:30 slate. That's on the SEC Network. Vanderbilt, Mark Byington's squad, who's just been fantastic. They host Ole Miss. 15th ranked Arkansas, who is just about as hot as any team in college basketball right now. They will host Kentucky. That's going to be a madhouse. Obviously, Bud Walton, John Calipari welcoming in his former team. Auburn is at Tennessee. Intrigue there. Stephen Pearl Auburn's head coach, a Tennessee grad, so facing his alma mater. And then your Fighting Tigers of LSU. They'll travel up to South Carolina, face the Gamecocks, a team who beat them already in the Maravich Center. There you have it. That is around the SEC. This is After Further Review, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar here on a Friday. Putting a button on the week. Got plenty to come here still left. But before we get to that, and before I tell you what that is, Matt is going to remind you about
South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com. In the market for a new vehicle, might be in the market for a new vehicle. Say it all the time. Just put Volkswagen on your list. So much of the Volkswagen brand is built around having fun. It exudes that when you go to South Point Volkswagen. They're going to work a great deal, and they got the best inventory. Remember, if it's on the lot, it's online at southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned. Check their entire inventory online. Work out your financing online. Do it all online at southpointvw.com. Then go see them at South Point Volkswagen. Airline just north of Highland. South Point Volkswagen, what's your direction?
I'm going to make a mental note to switch that one out. The show is not over. That's the end of the show sounds. Their show is not over. In fact, we have 2 hours left of the show and a lot to get to. I'm going to grab a break here and come back. We've obviously talked a lot about Joe Brady the last couple of days taking the Buffalo Bills job for a lot of reasons. We're very familiar with Joe Brady here. A couple years with the Saints, obviously of 2019 LSU fame, and now getting his first head coaching job. It's a big deal. Saw Coach O earlier today posted a video on Twitter congratulating Joe Brady on getting the head coaching job. But Joe Brady made a move today for his coaching staff that is definitely intriguing and has been the cause for a lot of conversation here on this Friday. We'll touch on that to close out hour number 1 next.
After Further Review.
We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Rolled into Rouse's earlier today. Went to go buy Evermore. And I love they have an Asian bowl that they make. It's Asian, fried rice with, you can get chicken or beef. I got the beef, fried rice, and vegetables bowl. So many great options. They have sushi made daily. They got the salad bar. They get so many different options. The hot bar. The hot and boiled seafood kiosk as well. Grab dinner for the entire family. Everybody can get something different. If you want lunch, dinner, it's great every day. They got tons of king cakes, as we talk about all the time. You want to ship a king cake. Got a couple more weeks until Mardi Gras, so ship your king cake anywhere in the lower 48. If you got a family member or a coworker or a client, something you want to give them a little taste of Carnival, go to Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Ship that king cake anywhere in the continental 48. It's Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
So Joe Brady was hired by the Buffalo Bills as the head coach to replace Sean McDermott. I mean, it's a huge first job for Joe Brady. We'll talk about that here a little bit momentarily. But he made a staff hire today that, as familiar as we all are with Joe Brady, we're very familiar with this coach as well, and it's Pete Carmichael. Joe Brady and the Buffalo Bills have hired Pete Carmichael away from Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos to be the offensive coordinator for the Bills. It's the first coordinator hire for Brady, and it's a guy he's extremely familiar with. They overlapped for 2 years when Brady was in New Orleans on Payton's staff. They both worked under there. Obviously, they have a lot of comfortability with each other. They worked together in that offensive room with Brady in that kind of analyst role, things of that nature. So you see this often, obviously, with head coaches. In their first job, they're going to hire guys that they have a rapport with. So from that vein, I think this is actually a really good move for Joe Brady. It's a guy in Pete Carmichael who has been on staff in some of the best years of an organization's history with the New Orleans Saints. It's a guy who has learned under one of the best head coaches in the NFL in Sean Payton. And it's a guy that can bring new and fresh ideas to the Buffalo Bills offense. When you look at them, they're trying to get over the hump, right? They're trying to win the Super Bowl. That's why they fired Sean McDermott, because they thought he wasn't going to get them there, let alone the roster holes they had for the last, 5 years. But that's what they're going for here. In all those areas, this is a great hire for the Bills and Joe Brady. I think the main question was, is Joe Brady going to give up play calling duties? And he answered that yesterday at his introductory press conference, where he said, no, he's still going to call plays. So, where has Pete Carmichael functioned best in his career? When he doesn't have to call plays. He's got the experience of doing it. You love the input. But the results on the field during games, they weren't great. Just call it really what it was. And you could ask, well, Derek Carr as opposed to Josh Allen, maybe something of that nature. It looked good the one year when Sean Payton was suspended and Pete had Drew Brees in that offense. Like, that worked. But I think a lot of people would look at this and go, Pete Carmichael could call plays. Well, no. Just Joe Brady's going to call the plays. It's all about the input. I actually love this move for Joe Brady, because I'm going to tell you right now, I have my doubts about Joe Brady as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. That is a bear of a job to take on as your first head coaching job, not just in the NFL, your first head coaching job ever. And look, you do see that more in the National Football League than anywhere else, where coordinators go up and they don't have, head coaching experience, maybe at this level, that level. I mean, hell, some guys like Joe Brady start off in the NFL low level and just work their way up until they get to head coach. That does happen. But it's not often you take on a job where the previous coach led the team to 7 straight playoff appearances and 8 overall in his 9 years. You know why that doesn't happen often? Because normally that guy's not fired. But anyway, Sean McDermott was. And Joe Brady, we talked about this a little bit yesterday during Tigers and the Pros. He said all the right things. He's embracing the expectations. That's why he took the job. Like, he's not shying away from this. This is what he wants. That's great. And you know what? I hope this goes fantastic for Joe Brady. But I do have my doubts. And gave you this stat yesterday. I'll give it to you one more time if you missed it. Since 2000, of the coaches that are promoted from within to be the head coach, and look, y'all, the Saints just went through this with Dennis Allen. Since 2000, of those guys promoted from within to head coach, 2 of them have finished with winning records. 2 of them in their career, in their time with that team, just 2. It was Jason Garrett with Dallas and Mike Martz with the then St. Louis Rams. So history's not really there. But that's another reason I actually do like this hire. Get you someone who's you're comfortable with, a veteran to bounce ideas off of. The real thing for Joe Brady is going to be who he can bring on staff that can help him with game management. Because that's just not something he's ever had to do. And there's going to be mistakes there. There were mistakes there with Kellen Moore. He'd never had to do that before. There were mistakes early in the season. By the end of it, he had it down pat. That's something you have to get down with a head coach. And that's what's interesting, again, with Brady continuing to call plays like Kellen Moore did. It just brings a lot onto your plate. I like the idea. I like the hire. I like Pete Carmichael, man. The guy was part of a lot of winning in New Orleans. Did it end poorly? Sure. But he was a part of the greatest years of the franchise. So I wish him nothing but the best, too. Odd, though, and we'll close with this at the end of the hour. Odd, though, you look at the turnover on Denver staff, it's a lot of New Orleans Saints guys. Sean fired Joe Lombardi, and now Pete Carmichael, who's been one of his closest confidants, out the door, too. Interesting times in Denver as well. Maybe they won't be the Denver Saints anymore, like they kind of just have been since Sean Payton took over. But best of luck to Joe Brady. Best of luck to Pete Carmichael up there. We'll be watching, clearly, when the season rolls back around and the Bills take back to the field. All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. We have Sports Center to get you caught up on national headlines. When we come back to start the 4 o'clock hour, there is actually one change in the college football playoff for 2026 that's worth mentioning. We'll tell you about that next for Hour 2 of AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawbillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. They will always find a way to get you the best possible price for the best possible tires on the road. That's what they do at Shawbills. And when they get you in by selling you the best tires, the cheapest price possible, they're going to treat you like family, and they're going to treat you so good you're going to keep coming back year after year after year every time you need anything for your vehicle. Tires rotated, oil changed, check engine light on, brakes squeaking, whatever's wrong with your vehicle, bring it to Shawbills. Let them give it the once-over, and you can always schedule online, so it's convenient. ShawbillsTire.com. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Shop tires online at ShawbillsTire.com. Be sure to ask about the Shawbills credit card as well, because you can save $50 off your first purchase when you use the Shawbills credit card only at Shawbills.